Howdy folks, and welcome. I have a good old Wild West story to tell you. The story of one moderately competent human being who attempts a stupid challenge to ultimately fail, but is picked up by the hands of an old grizzled lady played by my buddy X-Pilot. Let me tell you the story of the 0 to 50 melee challenge, starting with only a melee weapon. So, as the package on the tin says, this is going to be a challenge video of getting one hunter starting at level 0 and get them all the way up to level 50, that of course being the max. Now, I'll admit, I imagine this has been a challenge run others have probably done, but I did no research on this ahead of time, and I have no idea how pervasive runs like this works within the Hunt community, so I just made my own rule set in case you want to try this out for yourself. So, the rules are as follows. Rule 1. Your starting level 0 character can only have a melee weapon and a health pack. Otherwise, there's nothing else they can have equipped, and all equipment must be found while in game. This, of course, also deals with like consumables and throwables and all that jazz. For our case, melee weapons refers to knives, axes, hammers, baseball bats, the throwing spear, throwing knives, so on and so forth. My reasoning for this was to diversify what you could start with while still keeping you pretty hindered. And hey, you know, if you can hit a shot with a thrown spear, then more power to you. Rule 2. At no point are you allowed to purchase any gear in the shop. This includes weapon, ammo, consumables, etc. You can only play with what you find in the round, outside of the starting medkit and melee. Rule 3. Buying perks is allowed, as well as buying lost health chunks if it comes to it. And finally, Rule 4. To stop us from just killing mobs and leaving, we are required to always try to leave the map with a bounty token. Sometimes it's not possible, as most of you who've played this game have probably felt, but a good effort must always be made. There is a timestamp down below for those of you who want to skip to when X-Pilot and I play together, but I thought it would be fun to also show you some of my single-player footage. So with that, let's get down to the story. So this challenge came to me while I was procrastinating on an essay I had to write for my master's program, and I decided essays are temporary, Hunt is forever. So I jumped right on in with my first character here as the Reaper. I have no intention of showing every minute of footage, that's insane, and I have something like 4 hours of footage, but I do want to give you guys some semblance of an idea of what I was thinking while playing. So, my first character is up, and I was rocking the throwing spear, as in like my normal gameplay that I've been playing. I have been absolutely loving it. During the time of this recording, Hunt had just had its major update and is currently in the midst of an event. The number up in the far left corner is going to be extremely helpful. See, you can have up to 4 pledge marks, all of which are obtained for doing separate actions. The most important in our case will be getting 30 points to obtain said pledge mark. I can then go to specific locations on the map, the supply caches and the loot hoard, to potentially come across a weapon box that I can exchange a token for a weapon specific to that box. Weapons can also randomly spawn throughout the map. Anyway, back to the Reaper. So my goal is to get 30 points, and then I hear shots from behind me, and now this immolator is coming up behind me. So I'm going to be sandwiched between a player and an immolator. I know a spear throw will kill it in one hit with the Berserker perk you can get during the event, but my ass was way too close and I charred myself. I then came across the player I had heard and attempt to fight him, whiffing my spear, and, well, you see what happened. In another round, I had done the same mistake and charred one of my health bars pretty early on. You would think at some point I would learn, but no, I really don't. Anyways, I didn't have enough points to get a weapon, but I believed, on the trail of a duo, and I wanted to stop by the supply cart to pick up a perk. That's when I came across this just atrocity. Look, I won't be one to harp on how others play, but Concertina bombing the supply point just feels childish and vindictive. Show some respect to those ammo boxes. They never did anything to harm you. The game ends pretty quickly as well when my opponent and I basically sort of jump scare each other and go, oh shit, that's a person. But he gets a good first shot off and I die. Okay, so let's skip ahead to a round where I actually had a gun this time. Now, I had found this carabiner on a saddlebag and am currently heading to a fight zone. The new roaming Hellborn boss was in the area, and I had heard a lot of shots, meaning dead bodies, meaning loot for me. And hopefully, I could also snag a bounty. I had heard a death shout, meaning someone had died, and seeing that that guy was bleeding and running away, it was the perfect time for that kill. To my luck, all players were now dead, which meant I got the bounty and a boatload of equipment. But, my friends, greed and hubris would be my downfall. As I was looting and running away with my prize, the silenced shot hit the rock next to me. Now, could I have kept running? And, or positioned myself in a better location? Absolutely. Did I? No, I did not. Ah, the hubris of man. Okay, I don't want you all to think I'm completely incompetent, so before we get into the real juicy stuff with X-Pilot, let's take a look at this character. Again, I'd found a weapon on a dead horse and was making my way to where I heard shots, and am currently hunting down the guy who has the Hellborn bounty token. I find him, and then this just kinda awkward fight plays out, and I'll let it run. You can judge me later for my playstyle. I've played this game long enough to differentiate the different types of shots, and I knew that I was being shot at with the Crowning King. And when he ran out, he was going to rush me. Somehow I actually got the shot off killing him, so woo, go me. But as I was finishing up, as you can see, either his teammate or a third party decided they wanted to join the fray. In any case, I had to book it and get out of there real quickly, but I now had the bounty. Funny enough, though, after that first initial shot on the mountain, nobody came after me, and for the first time in this video, we extract with a bounty, bringing our character from level 0 all the way to 18. Alright, so back in the game with the same character. I know I'm hopping around a bit, but if you've ever played Hunt before, you know there can be a lot of downtime in between the exciting moments, and considering I haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes of this video, I thought you would all appreciate it. Anyways, I'm back in with our same character at a compound where the butcher is currently being banished. I scoped it out, but as of this moment, my presence isn't still fully known, though I do know that there's more than one team here. Having downed the Reaper, another player comes out, but at this moment it's hard to tell who was or who was not on whose team. As a solo, though, it really made no difference. If it moved, kill it, or die trying. So I'm in a bit of a predicament here. I'm not totally sure where to go or what to do, so instead of doing a full moving around the compound, I decide to go back to where I was and take a couple more shots, see if anyone's there. Now that I had taken a couple of shots and thrown a giant bomb from that same location, it was definitely time to reposition. At this point, nobody else had come out of the house, so I thought it was best to start moving into the compound proper. Having moved into the compound proper, I had to start being really careful for the bounty team and the Reaper's partner. Now, a player ran out of the house, as you just saw, and I domed them pretty quickly. Part of the reason I ran in was to see if I could find the partner, but not knowing the layout of the house very well, and not sure what weapons the partner may have had, I thought it best to move back and burn the body. The Reaper's partner, as I later found, then reappeared behind me, missing a shot, but on fire. That's when this just really unclean play happened. Looking back, I don't know why I rushed him like that. At the time, I assumed he was on fire, so he'd be panicking due to that, but I really should have just shot him, and as you saw, I nearly whiffed it. Now, body counting's super important. At this point, I know that of the 4 players, 3 are dead by my hand, so at most, there's 1 person left, unless another team comes. so I'm feeling pretty confident in myself. That was my first mistake. Now, I heard him as he raised his weapon, but at that point it was too late. I had one shot and whiffed it, and he had the lapel with the blade on it, killing me instantly. Now, I wasn't quite down yet, as I had just picked up the Necromancer perk, and as a solo player, I got one free self-revive if I had it. Now, the Butcher was still alive, his buddy was either burning out or on the cusp of death, and having heard the Butcher run by as I died, I assumed he wouldn't be near my body. This was mistake number 2. Honestly, I just got unlucky that he killed the Butcher just as I revived, and as the one reviving, you're at a severe disadvantage as you just can't move, shoot, or do anything until the animation is finished. This gives your opponent a good 2 or 3 seconds to put you back down. Now, enough of my solo attempts. Let's jump right into when X-Pilot joins me, and we both now are attempting the challenge, 0 to 50. He was following the exact same rule set as I was to, of course, make it fair. The only difference now is that I had a partner, so let's see how far we get. Our first run starts off like most of the others. We're just trying to get as many points as quickly as possible so that we can try to find a weapon. During this segment of the run, I find a hammer, a much better upgrade to the little knife I had, and it can one-shot most players with a heavy hit. X-Pilot has chosen to rock the throwing spear. As the game continued on, we had to actually pivot to the second bounty as the Butcher had been banished and already taken. We thought that maybe we could sneak up on the Scrapbeak team as they were still banishing. First though, we made the decision to hit the loot horde. Now, we didn't have the 30 points necessary to unlock the box for a weapon, but we were super close to the bounty and we were able to pick up another consumable that might help us later on. As we left the cave, we heard heavy firing coming from the direction of the bounty, but we also noticed that only one of the bounty tokens had been taken, meaning one of two things. Either someone was baiting us as if they were a solo, or it actually was a solo. Based on where the shots were coming from, and having looked at our map to see where the lightning bolts were, we assumed it was a solo and decided to move into the compound and grab the bounty. As we entered though, X-Pilot had an interesting idea. We knew that there was still a team incoming, and by checking our map, we also knew that the other bounty team was making their way down to us. So, what if we camped the bounty token and then just sort of waited? This might have been our only chance this round to actually kill a player and get their equipment. Is it a little scummy? Maybe. But did it work? I don't know, just watch the video, you'll see. At this point, I had heard footsteps and readied my hammer to run out and smack him. This may have been a mistake though, as he probably heard that breathe in sound. Nonetheless, he still opened the door. Now, I waited a couple of seconds to see if he was going to step in, but he was definitely too smart for my own good as he waited at the door, pistol at the ready. I then gave chase, and let me tell you something, guys. This is about to be one of the best kills of this entire video. My God, can we get a replay for that? What an absolutely beautiful kill from downtown with the spear. Man, if you slow it down more, you can actually see the spear in a few frames. Anyways, I was able to quickly pick up his Carabiner Deadeye before his partner was able to zero me. He did get a good shot off damaging me, but now that we had kind of figured everything out, we had a problem. There was a guy on a hill, which is just never easy if you've ever tried to attack going up. To add more problems to our mix of problems, the other bounty team was now coming down as well, so we were about to be sandwiched between a guy on a hill and 2 players with bounties, so they could probably even see us. As I was running up the hill to assist X-Pilot, he got downed, which, fair, he still did not actually have a gun. He had to book it across the stream after getting the spear kill. Little known fact is you can actually tell what direction the hunter was killed from based on what direction their feet are pointing. So that helped me a bit in figuring out where the partner was. After whiffing a couple times, I res X-Pilot and moved positions again to see if I can get a better angle, which I did! We then had the problem of the other bounty team, but after having mulled around the area for a while looking to see if they were trying to peek us or take the fight, what we really should have done had been to check our map. because had we done that earlier, we would have realized that they took the bounty and booked it to the evac. But these guys were little dingleberries, I tell you. They laid traps for us the entire way back, and you can see X-Pilot had actually got caught in one. It was disappointing that our first run out, we weren't able to get a bounty, but we did kill a team and get equipment, so it would make the next round easier. And, speaking of next round, the run back to the evac on this one was uneventful until I ran into another one of those team traps that they had laid for us at the evac. Honestly, just rude. Had I died, it's not like they would have gotten the points. It was just totally out of spite. Disappointment, but so be it. We move on. Thanks to that evac, we were able to get from level 0 to level 11. Not as good as my other character, but sometimes surviving a round is all you can ask for. We're now in our second round, and this time we have a bit of a different strategy. We didn't have a lot of consumables, but we did have primary weapons, so we were going to take this as a more quote-unquote normal game of Hunt. The issue with that is that we are sometimes more of a threat to each other than others. As you can see here, by my friend's billion IQ play that I totally hadn't done before. Turns out the spear hit the arm of the emulator instead of dead center, thus it surviving and us losing health chunks. Our new mission was to head to the loot horde and use one of our points and get our missing health bars back. Now remember how we got into this whole mess? Immolator, missed spear shot, that whole thing? Yeah, we're not smart. Could have shot it. It was already making lots of noise, but nope, let's set ourselves on fire again. Well, after that disaster, we do get our health back and open a chest to get a scoped Mosin, which I don't actually know if X-Pilot took. I was happy with my carabiner for the time being, and so we moved on to continue to collect the clues and figure out where we were going to go. Until, well, my game totally froze and I had to Alt F4 and relog. And don't worry, this isn't the last time this happens either. I've never really had this happen to me when in the old Hunt, let's say, but it happened like 3 or 4 times in this play session alone, so that was just so much fun. By the time I had relogged, X-Pilot was already at the Butcher's compound and the assassin had already been banished and its tokens collected, so I sprinted to X-Pilot's location as quickly as possible. By the time I had made it to the compound, a full fight was already taking place. We had no idea how many there were, which is always a problem when you're trying to count bodies. We did know that someone just bit the bullet, though. Having climbed up, we were in a pretty good vantage point to start figuring out what was going on, and, well, I'll just let the clip play out. Why I unscope with the carabiner, I don't know. I must have hit a button. But with the second player, I did get a hit on them, and then tried to use the big bomb once they heard the fuse being lit. I was donezo. Biggest reason that I had done that is they weren't coming out or moving, so my assumption was, okay, well, the bomb would flush them out. It did, just right to my face. Anyway, X-Pilot came in clutch with that. We're now fairly confident we have the compound to ourselves and now just need to deal with the butcher. This is pretty easy. We just stab him and blow him up a few times. After the bandage is complete, we realize nobody's around us, and we make it to the evac with no issues, and nothing exciting really happened. This was an interesting game because it showed us that even with incredibly limited resources, we were still able to pull out a win using the guns that we had. Of course, though, no good thing can just be good and work, and the game crashes just as we exit. Thankfully, it was like a Steam thing, and we actually kept our characters, because, man, that would have sucked otherwise. That was a solid round, with us going from level 11 to level 31. A solid jump and only 19 more levels to go before the challenge is actually completed. So, let's hop into round number 3 and see if we can keep this going. Round 3 is a night map, and neither I nor X-Pilot really like these. We have just way too many awful memories from pre-update Hunt of just getting absolutely mercilessly destroyed on night maps from bush campers with Mosin snipers. So we just wanted to get this done as quick as possible. We still needed to follow the rules. We couldn't just leave, so we needed to find a bounty or so on and so forth. Also, X-Pilot was eating dinner he had made while also playing, so he was multitasking, and we needed to not have him do that. We had a saving grace, though. See, because this was a one bounty map, that means that the Hellborn roaming boss spawned somewhere. And by absolute happenstance, he spawned right next to us. Our thought process now was to kill the Hellborn, take the bounty, and evac, hopefully allowing us to reset and get a day map. So enjoy us attempting to kill the Hellborn. The Hellborn dead, it dropped a very important perk, Relentless, which will be incredibly useful later on. What it does is when you're revived after being downed, you won't lose a health chunk. But it's also a burn trait, which means that once its effect is used, it's burned away and it can't be used again. This was an incredibly clean round as well. We got in, killed the Hellborn, and evac'd. There was no players, no nothing. We didn't really run into any trouble. This was just a nice short round, and it brought us from level 31 to 35. Now on to round 4, and our strategy was not changing, but we really needed to get a big win under our belts to boost our level. We were at level 35, and we had passed the halfway mark to 50. That being the case, every time you enter the bayou, or in this case, the canyons, or whatever we're going to call it right now, you can die. And that's just not great, especially when if you die, we would be set back to 0 with nothing. Too bad the game had other ideas and decided to freeze up and crash on me. Again. It sadly took me a lot longer to load in, and again, by the time I was connected, the Butcher had already been banished and the tokens were picked up. The Assassin had just started the banish. We chose then to go for the Assassin's team. Our reason being the Butcher team on the map had already started running in the opposite direction, and if we needed to get a bounty, might as well go for the one that's closer. Yeah, I know, you can flame us in the comments all you want. We chose to evac camp. Okay, we did feel dirty about it. It's not really our style, but because we were still so unfamiliar with the map, we found it easier to fight in the woods and foliage than in the buildings. Now, the fight was incredibly interesting, and I give major props to our opponents. They had used dark sight and knew where we were. One of the players had frag arrows on his bow and basically started to mortar strike us. It was a genius play. Even if it didn't kill us, it forced us to keep having to move and reposition. Sadly, we would not win this fight, though we also didn't lose. In case you're unaware of how evac works in Hunt, both players need to enter the evac zone, but you both don't have to stay there. Only one of you does. The other could be across the map, and they would still get pulled out of the game. So this is what I believe had happened, as one of them stood there in the evac zone area while the other one kept us busy at a distance. The Butcher bounty was also way gone at this point, and they were up north in their evac area, so we left this game empty-handed. That being the case, though, we did go up 2 levels from 35 to 37, but let's just get right into round 5. Round 5 starts, and we are acutely aware that every level we move up, the stress of losing it and having to start at 0 becomes more and more prevalent. We have to win and actually extract with bounties if we want to get some solid levels under our belts. With that said, we get lucky and come across the assassin's compound. Now, we have a bit of a problem. See, fighting the assassin sucks and is a huge pain because we haven't quite figured out a way to just blow it up. But X-Pilot and I had the conduit perk, and he had an axe. So by picking up a clue, it gave us a stamina boost, and with the axe, X-Pilot just ran in and caused absolute havoc. I, on the other hand, stayed outside as a meat shield for if anyone decided to shoot at us. Killing the assassin is the easy part. Now comes the hard part, the banish. To our surprise, the actual banish goes really well. We don't get pushed by any group, but we are aware that most likely there are people on the outskirts of the compound. The thing about this new map is that there are so many little hidey holes and peaks it makes sneaking up a little bit difficult, but it also makes defending difficult. And we were right. When X-Pilot goes into dark sight, he sees a duo hiding just on the outskirts of the compound camping. Now, this puts us in a bit of a predicament. We tried for a bit to see if we could see them, but after a good few couple minutes, they just wouldn't move. The longer we stayed in the compound, the higher chance another team would come, sneak in, and, well, we'd be toast. So we did the only thing we thought we could do. We ran for the evac. They weren't going to move, so we needed to make them. We ran towards our evac, because if we got lucky, there would be no one spawn camping said evac. But, as with most things in life, it's never that easy. So we ran north towards Terminus Rail Yard, and our evac was basically just over the fence. But as we ran into the building to keep cover, just in case, X-Pilot called out that there were evac campers. So now we're pinned between a team guarding the evac and the team that had followed us. But again, for whatever reason, they were staying just out of sight. They were either new or snipers, or both, honestly. So keep in mind now, we are level 37 at this point. We probably don't have enough EXP to get ourselves to 50, but this is the farthest we had come, and we were currently trapped in this building that had multiple entry points. And we were on a map that we were unfamiliar with, and there were peaks around every corner. We were in a horrible position. The group from before still wasn't pushing in, so we thought it best to try to handle the evac campers. They also were not pushing in, so this turned into a bit of a peak fight. These always feel like 50-50 encounters, and in my case, it ended, pretty poorly. So yeah, that sucked. Even looking back at the footage, I couldn't see where I was killed from. But according to the death screen, it was 88 meters away with a drilling, so honestly, good shot on their end. That being the case though, X-Pilot was able to pick me up, and this is where that Restless perk came into play. I was revived with full health bars and didn't have to waste any of my healing. We were still in the same predicament though, sandwiched between two teams, and we couldn't just camp out. So, we had a genius idea. We wouldn't. Much like with the first group and us were running away, we would do the same, but instead of a full-blown sprint, we would just catch the team off guard. We jumped out of the building and ran into the forest. It was admittedly a gamble because the original team that had followed us could have snuck up on us, but considering they hadn't really made a move on us at all, we felt fairly secure in being able to deal with the evac camping team first. We ran ahead just a bit, and then turned around and took positions to fire the moment we saw them. Here's the thing though, this was incredibly lucky, let's put it like that. Had they checked their map or gone into Darksight, they would have known we were waiting for them. But by some level of absolute luck, they didn't, leading to this. And with that, the evac camping team was dead. We still had the original team to worry about, but they had still made no push in. We decided to play it safe and ran all the way across the map to the evac. And here's the thing. They never shot at us once. They kept their distance the whole time. Granted, we could still see them in Darksight when we had it, but that was it. It was one of the weirdest interactions we had. But, so be it. This raised our level from 37 to 45. We were in the end game now of this challenge, and we just needed to get one more solid win to finish. So with that, let's get right into round 6 and see if we can pull off this victory, or if in the end we'll fail, rage, and lose everything. Most of this game was pretty mundane. We just went from place to place, picking up the necessary clues and so on and so forth. That is until we got to the Butcher boss lair, and it started to banish. So, we knew that there were people inside, but we didn't know if there were more on the outskirts or those sneaking in or whatever. As we were sneaking up, I actually started the fight and started everything off when I noticed this guy just on the roof. He had no idea where he came from. We didn't see him or hear him at that point. I just randomly saw him and went, okay, guess we're starting. X-Pilot was then shot from someone, most likely the team inside the bounty area, and we started to rotate back to get a new vantage point. Once we have moved away a bit, who I believe to have been the roof guy's partner comes out from the side to attempt to gun us down. He's swiftly taken care of, though. We now think we're alone with the bounty team until X-Pilot called out that the roof guy had actually, vanished. He was no longer on the roof. We circled the White House for a bit when X-Pilot decided to actually enter in a sneaky fashion and actually found the roof guy and put him down for good. Now, all we had left was the bounty team. This actually leads to one of my dirtiest kills ever, and whomever you are, I am deeply sorry, but damn, that was so good. With that, the Butcher was about to finish the banish, and we were incredibly excited, as it looked like we'd actually beat this challenge. Until we realized that there was yet another group waiting for us. Like last game, they also refused to push in and were just trying to peek us from the foliage. This would turn into one of the most frustrating fights we have ever partaken in. I'll save you the misery of the 3-minute peak fight as well, because nothing interesting happened. I think we hit them once or twice, but that was about it. And I will also just let you get the highlights of this fight, because I kid you not, it took over 10 minutes. So, anyway, we did what we had done last game and ran for the evac as we tried to pull them out of their entrenched position. As we neared closer to the evac, we noticed through Darksight that they had actually cut us off. So to get to evac, we were going to have to go through them, and there was no way for us to just turn around and run. This, again, turned into a peak fight with us shooting down range. They would not move and kept at distance the whole time. We can't necessarily blame them for doing that. It was just frustrating because we weren't landing our shots. We then chose to actually close the distance ourselves a little, but as we did, they pulled back. I then thought, all right, why not throw a big dynamite bundle? And folks, I'm gonna teach you a lesson about explosives here.
Oh, fuck, you got me. You got me with that dynamite.
You hear that call out? He's trying to bait us into running in close to finish him off. But see, that trick only works if a grunt or other mob is nearby. Now, why, you may ask? Well, when an explosive goes boom, you'll get a hit marker if it damages anything. There was no hit marker, thus no hit, so we knew this was just an immediate lie. But if there was a grunt or other mob nearby, I would have gotten a hit marker, but would have had no way of knowing it was just a mob, unless I had heard the audible of a hunter being hurt. This peaking fight continues until X-Pilot and I pull back a little bit. We know they're going to follow us at some semblance of range, so really all we have to do is just force them into the open based off how they want to move. And so finally, we make it back to the rail yard of all places, and this is where we're going to make a semblance of a final stand. Now, don't get it wrong, our patience was real thin, if non-existent. But if we died here, we'd have to start all over again, and I'm not sure either of us could take that. So I'm simply going to let this fight play out. We had done it. We had won at the cost of our sanity. And you know what? I'm simply going to let X-Pilot's in-game statement show how we were feeling.
That's what you fucking deserve, you pieces of shit!
Yeah, pretty much just that. I also may have been a little toxic, which, again, sorry for that. We were a little riled up. With that, though, we booked it to the evac. 6 kills and a bounty under our belt. If we left now, we would complete the challenge. So guess what? I'm just messing with you guys. We did it. We made it. We evac. And finally, we had a level 50 hunter. We had completed the melee start hunt challenge. Let's go! And, as with all level 50 hunters, we gave her the retirement she deserved. From nothing but a knife to level 50, we had done it. Were there ways that we could have made this more challenging? Yeah, absolutely. But did we have fun doing it? Hell yes. I know this isn't my usual content. My other stuff needed a little bit more time in the oven. And I'd been wanting to make a hunt video for a little while, so this just felt like a good in-between. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe, and comment below what sort of other fun hunt challenges you've seen or heard of, or even which ones you yourselves have completed or attempted. Thank you all for watching. Of course, huge thanks to X-Pilot for joining on this adventure, and I'll see you in the next one.